All right, we're back with the Long Road Podcast. This
Finally.
is Jacob Long and
Nick Long.
we're back after a short hiatus. I had a child.
I was
So
going
I've
to say
been-
short hiatus is 9 months to you.
It hasn't been the whole. Was it? Was it the whole pregnancy?
Just about.
No.
Damn near.
Like 6 months. Because our last recording was.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, I had a kid and
Congrats.
a baby girl. Her name
Applaud.
is Amora. Yeah, thank you. But our first episode back, we're going to be talking about the Netflix show Yellowjackets. On Netflix, and it's also only season 1's on Netflix. You have to watch like season 2 on
Paramount.
Yeah. And so I wanted to. This is the topic that I picked because I wanted to talk about it because I have some issues with the show. Nick started watching it and he didn't get quite through season 1, but we're going to be talking about season 1 and season 2. And of course, I mean, there's going to be some spoilers.
I'll be
putting it
talking
out
about
there.
season 1. He's going to be talking about season 2.
Yeah, I'll be the majority of season 2. But yeah, so the show starts off. Do you want to just read? We'll start off with reading the online synopsis for season 1.
Well, I don't think we should read this whole thing because it literally describes the whole thing of season 1. It's from the website Cosmopolitan.
Yeah, so we'll give you like a rundown of everything, and then we'll go back through and like bring up our issues. Well, my issues with everything.
So if you watch the first episode, it kind of starts off a little weird. They're in the forest, a girl's running, lots of panic.
Yeah, you don't. This is where it starts. It snowed. It snowed all over this forest. A girl's sprinting. Yeah, just start off with reading that first part.
In a panic. So 1996, Yellowjacket kicks off in the creepiest way possible. A girl runs through the snow in a nightgown and falls into a pit trap, only to be impaled on spikes. Her body is hung upside down to bleed out. We then see the Yellowjackets in costumes enjoying some fresh meat. The strong implication being they're engaging in casual ritual cannibalism.
So we'll stop there for real quick. So yeah, so she falls into like this pitfall trap that's like straight out of Nam, where there's just a whole bunch of spikes at the very bottom, and she gets impaled like all over the place. And then, like he said, we see the Yellowjackets. It's basically Yellowjacket. I'll give you the quick rundown. It's a soccer team of high school girls based out of
Wrong.
what?
Basketball.
It's not basketball. It's soccer. What, dude? Did you watch the show?
Yeah.
So this is how I'll prove to you that it was soccer. There's a scene where before they go, because basically what it is that they're going to nationals from California to Washington. They're in Seattle and they're the Yellowjackets. It's a high school soccer team, high school girls varsity soccer team, I think. And it is like the 80s. Well,
Was
in one of
there
the
a
scenes
scene in any of this
where they're
they
playing
play a
soccer,
sport?
yes, because
Okay,
before they
maybe I
go to
didn't get to that.
nationals. It was in the beginning because it's before. It shows it before. It was the first episode.
I could have swore they were playing basketball.
The plane starts to go down at the end of the first episode.
Wait, was the boys that nobody cared about, were they the basketball team?
No, it's
They
the
were also
coach's
the soccer
sons.
team?
It's the. Oh my god. Okay.
I could have sworn.
So. Well, okay.
Stop the podcast.
We'll come back to
Wait a
this.
second.
We'll come back to this. Anyways, these girls, their varsity soccer team, the Yellowjackets, high school. They're going in Seattle. They're going from Seattle to Washington for nationals. There's a scene right before they go where one of the girls that's on the team, that like the other girls don't like her, like high school fucking shitty petty shit. She trips her when she has the ball, and they're like, "Oh, don't give her the ball," If she gets it, get it away from her. The one girl fucking trips her and breaks her leg where her bone's fucking sticking out. Did you watch the right show, Nick?
Was this the first episode?
The first fucking episode. Anyways, and that girl, the girl that got tripped, her whole entire character turns into, oh my god, I was supposed to be on that plane, because the plane goes down while they're on their way to nationals. I don't fucking remember, because the only time she's ever shown up, I don't even think I know her actual name, because she doesn't pop up until halfway through the series anyways, yeah. And so that's how it starts, is these girls that are, a plane crash happens, some of them survive. I'm assuming they don't ever really tell you where they land at, or so far at least. There's only 2 seasons out, but what I'm assuming is crash land into probably some kind of national forest or national park type thing outside of or inside of Washington, because it's a huge forest. There's fucking mountains and shit. That's where they crash land at. And so
where are they from? Seattle,
yeah. And so
they're going to Oregon?
No, Washington. I just said that. Yeah.
They're in Washington.
No. Well, I think we don't know. They don't tell you where they crash in.
They're in Seattle, Washington. The team is the Yellowjackets.
Seattle, California, going to Washington for nationals. Isn't there Seattle in California?
There's a Seattle, Washington. There might be a Seattle, California.
I thought the main Seattle was in.
Pause.
We're paused. Hold on. We'll come back.
Yes.
So the girls in Yellowjackets, it's Seattle, California, right? And they're going from California to Washington?
I don't know where they're from in the beginning.
You don't know where they're from?
No.
But you know they're going to Washington, right?
They're going to Seattle, yeah.
They're going to Seattle?
Yes.
Oh, it is Seattle, Washington. Oh. Okay. All right, love you, bye.
They're from New Jersey.
Is that what it is? I thought there was is there not a Seattle, California?
No, they're from New Jersey.
Oh, you know what? That makes so much more sense. Okay, so they're in New Jersey going to Seattle, Washington. And they took the plane.
New Jersey High School.
Okay.
Team, the Yellowjackets, a girls soccer team. Destination Seattle
basketball.
For a national tournament. Plane crash. Their private plane crashes in the Ontario wilderness in 1996.
Oh, so it does tell you they're in Ontario.
The survivors are stranded for 19 months.
Yes. Yep. They do tell us how long that they're out there for. Because basically the show starts out... I don't remember if it starts... Because it jumps back and forth. It goes when they're like teenagers and they're like prepping for nationals, and then they go and their plane crashes. And so it jumps between how they survived and what they did while they were out there. And it jumps between that, which is like in like the 80s, I think. And then it jumps forward 30 years. Oh, it'd be almost 40 years because it's 2021 or something like that.
I don't know. They're just
to the present where they're older and how they're dealing with what happened while they were out there.
They're all in their 40s, 50s?
Yeah, they all a couple of them have kids and they're all way older and shit like that. So I think it's probably somewhere between 30 and 40 years jump. Probably closer to 30, 35.
Right.
My apologies. From New Jersey to Washington. And they're in Ontario.
They crashed somewhere in Ontario.
Which, Michigan?
Canada.
I know. I'm just playing. Yeah. But how the fuck would they have crashed in Canada? Why would they go into Canada to get to Washington?
Because the Earth isn't flat.
Excuse me, stewardess. Why is the plane doing this bendy thing?
You mean following the curvature of the Earth?
Map looks flat to me, so can you tell the pilot to fly straight? We're trying to get...
This is a discussion for a different podcast.
They had to go around the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, no, you're right. That makes sense.
And
that
it's
makes
a straighter
sense.
path to there. Or at least less time.
So, yeah, that's you can continue the synopsis from there.
I don't know. There's a bunch of shit that happens. A lot of petty teenager girl stuff that I would assume happens in high school. I don't know because I'm not a petty high school teenager girl. I just act like it sometimes. I don't know. It's kind of what you expect. If you ever seen Shameless or I don't know. What else would you kind of compare this
So
to?
realistically, this show is based off of Lord of the Flies.
Okay.
Because they even mention the kids that got stuck in Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Where they crashed.
But I'm just saying, if the Gallaghers
to-
ever got stuck in the woods and they come up across these girls are going to all be screwed.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Like,
The
even if they are eating people, the Gallaghers are going to still team up on them. And
Well, so that's what we have to discuss.
so for season 3, this is my idea. We have a crossover show where for some reason, like, I don't know, somebody in the family wins the lottery and they all go to Washington to fly to Hawaii, because why would you just stay in Washington if you won the lottery? And
right.
they also crash. Well, no, we can't do that unless there's time travel involved.
Yeah, because it's... Never mind. Oh, my God. Anyways, the main thing that I wanted to bring up and what I wanted to talk about, as Nick did mention, you do find out that they have been out there for 19 months. So you know that they do eventually get found, obviously, because some of them are alive and in, the society.
Right.
When they're older, when they jump back and forth. Well, the thing that I wanted to talk about is, from the first episode, they become cannibals. And they kind of have this kind of cult going on out here in the woods.
I didn't watch the part where they finally decided to start doing it, though.
We'll get
I don't
to
see
that.
how the build up
Get to it. So that's the thing I wanted to talk about is they're out there for 19 months, not quite 2 years. And they start... What I wanted to talk about was, I don't think 19 months is long enough to start forming a cult and eating your friends.
Well, the thing is,
because
it shows you by episode 5, like, they were out there for a few days. They're running out of rations. By the way,
there's 10 episodes in season 1 and 9 episodes in season 2.
They run out of rations, and then it comes to a vote between all the girls and the survivors, that should we stay at the crash site or go where some lady found water.
Yeah, they found like a lake.
So they ended up finding some sort of lake and a cabin out there. And if you have that and you know how to hunt,
you should be fine.
Yeah, how many are there in the beginning?
So I seen a video. I can't remember whose video it was, but he counted that there was at least 20 survivors from the beginning after the plane crash. There's 20 of them. So basically everybody that goes on this trip is the team, the varsity team, which I'm assuming is probably 20 girls. And then there's the coach, which is an older guy, an assistant coach, which is kind of a younger but older guy, probably 20s, 30s. Mm-hmm. And then the main coach, brought his 2 sons. His one son is in the same grade as the girls, I believe. And then his younger son is probably a couple years younger. And those are the people that are, obviously you have like the captain or whatever. He definitely dies. But the people that survive, the older coach, the main coach, dies. A bunch of, the nameless, girls that don't really fucking matter to the story. They, a couple of them do die in the plane crash.
Everybody matters to the story.
Anyway, so a couple of them that don't fucking matter to the story die in the plane crash. But the 2 boys, the coach's sons, survive. And then you have like the main cast.
Coach Ben is still alive.
And the assistant coach does survive.
Oh,
but
he's the assistant?
Yeah, he's the assistant coach. But he loses his leg.
Yeah, Misty.
From the beginning.
Misty ends up chopping it off because...
Like the wing landed on his leg.
It was broken a certain way that I guess amputation was required according to this teenage girl.
But she's the whole thing is she's not on the team. Misty Squiggly or whatever her name is. She's not on the team. She's like their like gopher. Where she like provides like first aid.
She's the water
provides
boy?
the water. Yeah, she's the water boy of the team. And so when they do crash, the reason why they are out here for 19 months, because when I talk to other people, they're like, man, they're out there for 19 months. Like, it took them that long. People would just be like, oh, this is their flight path. We'll just fly over and look for a crashed plane, which I still feel like you could just do anyways. But when they're out there, she goes off by herself because nobody really likes her. Like when they're especially back like at home before they leave. Nobody really likes her. They're like, oh, she's fucking weird, and she's like bullied by all of them. Well, she actually provides like first aid for a lot of them when they first crash. And so she goes off kind of in the woods a little bit to go like pee or whatever. And she sees two of the girls walk past and they're like talking and they don't notice her. And they're like, oh man, we're so glad to have Misty here. Like she's actually probably saved most of our lives, you know, because she knows the stuff she knows. And so she's like, you see like the light bulb go off in her head. And she's like, oh, I'm useful out here. They need me and they like me here. And she looks off and she sees the black box from the plane and she destroys it.
See, I didn't see that part.
Yeah, you also thought they played basketball.
No, I know. But I didn't see that part. Is that... So I thought she was like that before, though.
What?
She was kind of like needy.
She was, I mean, yeah, she was like kind of needy. She's kind of a needy, you know, whatever. But
that developed into having this weird personality where she's... Have you ever watched Misery?
no.
Okay. Well, she essentially embodies that movie where as long as she has somebody to take care of, she's fine. But she will make sure you need taken care of.
So that's actually plays a big part in it because she kind of has what I would call like maybe it's an obsessive personality disorder.
It's a disorder.
Where she's obsessed with the fact of people needing her. She needs to feel needed. You know what I mean? Because then when she cuts the coach's leg off to kind of save him.
So can you kind of say that this is all because of Misty?
Yeah. Because she destroyed the black box.
Mm.
And so that's how they didn't just... I mean, if the black box is there... And it did show that it was working. It was still lighting up. That's kind of the whole point of the black box. If the plane goes down, the black box should survive. And we can pinpoint exactly where the crash is at. How'd she break it? Oh, she took a tree branch and fucking beat the shit out of it and threw it against a tree and fucking kicked it. And she just beat the fuck out of it until... Which I don't understand how a plane crash couldn't destroy it. But then this little fucking teenage girl that's probably 100 pounds soaking wet fucking beat the shit out of it and broke it to the point of it not working. But that's the reason why they end up being stuck out there.
Could a teenage girl physically beat up a black box where it couldn't work anymore? Yes, a teenage girl could potentially damage a black box to the point where it no longer works. Thank you, ChatGPT. I had my doubts, but thanks for AI.
ChatGPT says, as shown in the show Yellowjackets, Misty destroys it. No, but...
It says bare hands would likely be insufficient, but heavy stuff would be able to break
probably
it.
like a tree branch, or I mean, throwing it. I mean, I'm sure you can break anything throwing it up against a tree enough, you know?
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of like how it starts. And my thing is like...
Nobody's seen her do that?
No, because she was out, you know, kind of awake. She was going to the bathroom.
She couldn't have been quiet about it.
That's... yeah. You know how I explain it, Nick? Plot
Protected everybody.
Protected it, yep. So... my whole thing was, so when they first start cannibalizing people, and this takes place...
I never got to that point.
It's the very first episode of season 1 when they first cannibalize someone. And it happens...
Episode.
On accident. Season 2, episode 1 is like...
Oh, that's where it starts?
It's the first time they eat someone.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what was the situation?
We'll get to that. But the whole thing is like...
I thought that's why we were here.
Well, yes. Okay, yeah, I'll describe it. The whole thing is...
You're just going to edge me this entire time?
Well, the point is that what they've released is for season 3. If you do watch it, I do recommend it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Nick said it was like so. But the directors are trying to think about if they want it to be a supernatural aspect or a psychological aspect on the reason why they started the cult. And I'll say that because a character in it, Lottie, it's like what's her, what did it say her real name was? Because Lottie's like her nickname. I don't remember, but the character's name, they call her Lottie. She has schizophrenia. And when the plane crashes, the first day, you see her take her last pill, her last schizophrenia medication, which I also have a problem with because that was just to further the plot, because if you're going to Washington for fucking nationals, you're probably going to be there for what, a couple days? I don't have schizophrenia, but I'm assuming schizophrenia medication is something you take on the daily. You probably should have packed away more than one. You're definitely not going to be at nationals for one day and come back.
She had the bottle.
I know. And when the plane crashed, went down, she took she took one the next morning.
Right.
And it was she dumped the bottle out, and there was one left. And she's like, "Oh," it was like a plot point, like, "Oh man, she's ran out of her medication."
I feel like her parents would have, if it was up to that, then they might have called in over where they were going.
I get
to
that,
fill the
but
prescription.
Wouldn't you have thought about that before you left?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Hey, you're on your last schizophrenia medication. I'll have a refill, or at least. But then again, also Lottie's dad.
Well, in the beginning, it doesn't really tell you what she's taken either. Or she doesn't really have any signs of it until
she dumps out her last pill, and you see the bottle, and you're like, oh, it's schizophrenia medication, because she's schizophrenic.
Does it show it that though?
Yeah,
okay.
It shows, like she dumps out the bottle and she looks at it. I'm pretty sure. But then you also find out, like right before the plane crashes, she mentions, "Oh, my dad is rich, and he's the one that funded for us to have this private plane to go to Washington." Because I think they were going to originally take like a bus or something. But her dad is the one that funded it to where they would have that private plane. I personally have a theory that her dad just wanted her to die because it eventually shows
the insurance on the life.
Yeah,
policy.
well, because he doesn't really like her. And she even mentions like, "Oh, that's how my dad shows his love, is through throwing his wallet around."
I mean, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad of a problem. I mean,
there are worse problems out there.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's kind of... You only give her enough schizophrenia medication for one more dose. And then on top of that, the plane you fund her...
At least a week.
Yeah, but I think when she takes it, it was only the next day.
I don't know.
Or at least when they emphasize on her taking it.
Because it's not like they have a calendar or they're scratching out the days and the...
I mean, I think they start to mention in the beginning, they're like keeping track, like, "Oh, we've been here for a week, or we have a week's worth of rations," and then they mention when they run out, stuff like that. But eventually, they do end up, like you said, having to decide whether to go to the lake and to the cabin or not.
Yeah.
But once they get to the cabin, the reason why I say they're trying to decide if it's going to be psychological or spiritual or psychological.
Oh,
like.
If they get in the territory of like the.
But the reason why I say that they're trying to decide whether it's going to be more spiritual or psychological is because when they get to the cabin, they end up being there for a couple days, and their teenage girls are like, "Oh, what else do we have to do?" They start to do a séance upstairs, and when they get to the cabin, they go upstairs. Well, they find that there's this dead guy. He's just skeletons, however fucking long he's been there for. But on the upstairs, like kind of the attic part, there's these symbols carved into the floor. It's just a hardwood floor carved into the floor in like a circle. And it's just this one symbol in each, around. And so they start to do a seance. And you see something while they're doing it fly from outside, hit the window. The window opens by itself and it goes to Lottie. And she gets up.
I thought that didn't actually happen though.
No, it did. Because she starts speaking French and they're all like, "What the fuck?" Lottie, like, "Oh, Jackie, you took French classes with Lottie. Like, does she actually know? Like, how the fuck is she speaking French like this?" Because she's just fluently speaking it. And Jackie's like, "Oh, you're right, I took the classes. I don't remember any of the fucking French. She was worse at it than I was. Like, what the hell?" And then she gets up and starts smacking her head up against the glass. And so they have to, like, grab her and shit.
I don't remember anything flying into the room, though.
It shows, from, like, a first-person point of view, something flying in from the trees.
Yeah, from her perspective.
Whose perspective? Lottie's?
Yeah. It shows what's happening in her perspective, though, right?
Well, no, because she's not outside flying into the room. It has a first-person perspective of something outside flying, and then it hits the window, and then it goes back to the third person's perspective of showing like the room, and the window flies open, and it goes straight to Lottie. And like the window did open supposedly by itself, And that's what the thing is if because Lottie ends up kind of they kind of elect her as being like kind of the leader of the group to decide certain things. And so you end up having to what they're trying to decide is if it's going to be spiritual, where it's actually like a ghost possessive kind of thing.
Right.
There's a spirit haunting them. Or if it's psychological and it's just this girl with schizophrenia convinced all of her friends to be in a cult and start eating their friends.
Right, but that's not how I remember it. I just remember them doing the seance, and then she ended up freaking out and then started speaking French.
Yeah.
Supposedly. But nobody was able to interpret it.
Yeah, because they all took French classes, but none of them remembered. I mean, I took 3 years of Spanish, and I fucking can't understand Spanish.
No, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
But I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, so she does have schizophrenia.
Oh, because you thought it just...
Yeah, because I saw her taking the pills, and I was like, oh, why are they showing her do that? If they're showing her do that, that means it's something important.
Right.
And then when she started freaking out, that's when I was like, oh, schizophrenia. I did not think of anything spiritual at all.
Well, you also... Were you doing something else while you were like...
No, I was watching the show. I was watching the show.
We're watching it very closely.
Apparently not.
But yes, so what it ends up doing is they haven't decided through season 1 and season 2 if it's going to be more spiritual or more like psychological. So they make points for both. Well, that's what you say, but they could if they decide to make it spiritual, they're like, oh yeah, they've been possessed. Lottie was possessed, and
yeah, but then it's a group psychosis at that point. You get it to a point where it happens. Is it
right.
If everybody starts believing,
right? But if that's not the point that they're trying to come across, is if they don't want it to be psychological, and like you said, like a group psychosis, and they're not going to do that.
Right.
But so far, they've made points to where they could go either way with it. They could say, "Oh yeah, it's psychological because it's just this girl," and like you said, like a group psychosis type situation, or it's spiritual and there's a spirit that's possessed all of them.
Well, and during this time, it's showing you stuff that happens in the future as well. But
Yeah,
Jacob doesn't like talking about any of that because he doesn't care about it.
I don't fucking think it's very interesting. Anything that happens after they're rescued, it was kind of boring for me. I didn't really find anything intriguing about because there's two different sort of storylines going on here. It's them explaining what happened while they were out there in the woods, and then it's them in the future and dealing with what happened out in the woods. And then on top of that, somebody starts blackmailing them, sending them letters and saying, hey, I know what you did out there, because none of them talk about it. Like, you're not going to come back to society and be like, yeah, we fucking ate all of our friends and started a cult while we were out there.
Right.
But
at least you wouldn't think.
People were trying to figure it out. Like, oh my God, like what happened to you guys? And
why
even
did nobody
way after.
believe them?
Believe about what?
Like, why they kept asking about it? Like,
well, because everybody so far has just said like, oh, I don't want to talk about it.
The same story over and over again.
We were out there and we did things we didn't like that we had to do. You know, we did what we had to do to survive. That's all they've said. So yeah, like obviously, you're not gonna come back and be like, yeah, we started a cult and fucking ate all of our friends. Why,
bro? I tried human before. You know how sickening that is. My fellow man and me have eaten each other to survive.
I have a whole nother understanding of the human biology.
There is a perfect temperature to cook human at.
So that's kind of the whole thing. The reason why I wanted to bring this up and why I wanted to talk about this is, so obviously they're probably, I don't know, springtime when the plane goes down. And the first time they eat someone is like towards the first snowfall. And so the first time they see snow, I mean, it's probably, I think, give or take a month after it started snowing, that eventually you know that Shauna, one of the characters, was sleeping with Jackie's boyfriend. You know, this is the high school drama part.
Does that have to do with why they started eating people?
Yes, because Jackie finds out because she didn't know, and Shauna wasn't going to tell her. But you also find out that Shauna is pregnant and is pregnant with Jackie's boyfriend's baby.
So you have adultery. What else you got? What else? Are there all 7 sins in this movie? Or in
probably.
This show?
Greed. The adultery's not a sin, isn't it? Just like it's a...
Oh, fucking around on your girlfriend's boyfriend is probably not a good thing.
It's definitely one of the
I know
it's a
they're not
commandment
married
something,
or anything,
but yeah,
you're not supposed to covet your other friend's stuff. That's kind of what it is. They say men and all that other stuff, but women, You were supposed to have us take care of you, but now you guys are taking care of yourself, so...
Right.
You got to take responsibility. At this point, it's all your fault. You guys started eating each other.
Well, the reason why this leads to them starting to eat each other is Jackie finds out by reading Shauna's diary while they're out there, and she's like, "Oh, you fucking slept with my boyfriend," and there's like a whole fight.
I would have burnt that shit the first fucking night.
That's what. Why would you keep it? Oh, well, she says why she keeps it is because she's keeping her diary. Turns from her diary into her journaling everything that happens while they're out there. And she ends up having it while they do the time jump, like while they're older. She still has it.
Yeah, I saw her bring everything out. It's like a ritual for her to bring that stuff out and read it every once in a while.
Yeah.
So does she get some sort of pleasure from it?
It's probably some kind of kink shit. I mean, the first episode, the first time you see Shauna, she's masturbating to her daughter's boyfriend.
That's what was going on.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't trying to watch that, so I kind of...
She's in her daughter's room masturbating to one of her daughter's boyfriend's pictures.
Is that where she...
Yeah. Because then she
I was doing something else while watching this. I was playing Hearthstone on my phone.
That makes a little more sense. And she claims like, "Oh yeah, nope, sorry, I was just doing laundry. I was gathering the laundry around."
No, she wasn't.
No, she was not. And what's even
her daughter's boyfriend?
Yeah, in her daughter's room on her daughter's bed. And the thing I was like, was that her daughter's vibrator? And I was like, that's even more fucked up. But Elizabeth was like, no, she throws it in the laundry basket and then takes it with her. And I'm like, oh, great, all over the clean clothes. Right, like, freshly used. But how this leads to is Jackie gets pissed off, obviously, because she found out her best friend was sleeping with her boyfriend. And they end up taking a vote of like, oh, fuck you, Jackie. You go outside. You're sleeping outside tonight. And it's snowing. It's super fucking cold out. What ends up happening is this is how season 1 ends.
Okay.
Is they send Jackie outside and like, oh, you sleep outside. And she's like sleeping right outside the front door. Shauna wakes up and is like, oh, we forgot to bring her back in. Like nobody ever went out and got her. And it was like, goes out there and she froze to death. And they're like, oh, and then season 2 picks up with, the ground's way too hard for us to bury her because they were burying all the dead. And they're like, well, we'll give her, a proper kind of sort of burial. So they put her up in the stack of wood and light it on fire the next night and lay her body on it. And then they go to bed. Well, the kind of supernatural aspect, the spiritual aspect of this,
right,
on how they're able to kind of, one of the things towards spiritualness in this like supernatural-esque is...
So before we get too far... So Jackie, poor little Jackie,
which for those of you who don't know is also the same actress that was just in Fallout,
was left outside because her boyfriend decided to sleep with another woman.
Well, it's not that necessarily, but she found out about it and was like throwing a huge fit, naturally, because she found out her best friend was sleeping with her boyfriend. And then I don't remember exactly.
And then all the other girls are like, hey, stop freaking out so much. You need to cool off outside.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to stay out there the rest of the night. Up for a vote?
Yeah.
That's
and they all tell her to go outside. Yeah.
What were the dudes doing at the time? Because the coach is gay now.
Well, you do find out that the assistant coach is gay.
So he's like one of the girls.
Well, yes and no.
And then what about the two sons?
I think they're just like, like they all want you to go outside.
They're all too hot. We can't disagree with them. We have a potential of being able to, make something out of this. Who knows?
So the reason how this starts to them eating her is they set her up on the pile of wood, light it on fire the next night while they're trying to figure it out. They go back inside, go to sleep, and while they're sleeping, they started the fire. Her body's burning. The supernatural-esque kind of thing for this on how this happens is something hits a branch, like something pulls a branch, snow falls off the tree above the body,
Where the fire
lands on the fire where the like in the body, puts the fire out just enough and covers the body to where it makes a smoker and smokes the body all night, and to where they wake up and they're like, whoa, what is that? That smells good. Like, oh, and they're all, starving at this point because they're a bunch of fucking teenage girls that don't know how to hunt or fucking do anything,
They weren't
obviously.
fishing or nothing?
That's the
During
reason
this
why I
time,
wanted to
they
talk
weren't
about
trying to
this.
gather food or...
They go out there and they're like, what is that smell? This smells amazing. And they're like, oh my God, it's fucking Jackie's body.
It's one of us.
It's Jackie's body. It was just smoked all night. And they go over to it and they're all standing around it. And then it shows them all start to eat it. Like one person kind of grabs a piece of her. And she's like tender as fuck too. Like fall off the bone, fucking tender. And that one person eats
seasoned.
it. And, well, you're fucking starving. I don't think they really cared.
I would.
I'm assuming this guy didn't have any fucking salt and pepper in his fucking
I would.
shed. Yeah, but they start to eat it. So all of the kids are around her body, fucking gorging, eating her body. And then like the coach comes out, looks and is like, what the fuck? Turns around, goes back into the cabin. And he's kind of fucked up from that point on. Is like, what the fuck are these girls doing?
Well, yeah, because what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're a one-legged man surrounded by all these athletic teenage girls.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And that kind of set it off. And that's kind of the beginning of it. And before that, there was a part where they're like, oh, we never got to have prom. And so they decide to all, this is when Jackie was still alive. This was probably halfway through.
Did they all turn lesbian for a night?
No, this goes back to where Misty has to,
need to take care of something.
Yeah. And so she found mushrooms out in the forest and she was going to poison the coach to make him sick so that she would, because she ends up falling in love with the coach. And that's how you find out he's gay. Is at first he goes along with it because he's like, well, I don't want her to do anything rash,
I thought he only said that.
He just said it like, oh, yeah, we're in love. I feel the same way about you, but you can't tell anybody. You
Right.
have to keep it on the down low. Because he didn't want her to do anything, fucked up, which she ends up doing anyways. And she was going to poison him. But what she didn't know is they were psilocybin mushrooms. And
he had a great time.
Well, hold on. So one of the girls found it and was like, oh, Misty, we found your mushrooms. We're going to make like a stew for the prom tonight or whatever that they're having out in the woods. Well, they go on like this whole trip, and Lottie at this point, the schizophrenic one, she ends up being like, oh, we're not going to be hungry for much longer. And long story short, they end up going on like this hunt, and they hunt down one of the boys, and to them it looks like he's a deer, and they almost kill him, but that doesn't end up happening. And that's kind of like the start of, I guess, the original like instance of them going to be cannibals. Is it mental, like psychological type of thing, or is it spiritual and like with that? And is it just like a ghost that's like possessing them and haunting them, or is it straight psychological where this schizophrenic girl gets around to having these other girls around her form this cult, and it's all like her trying to convince them that it's like spiritual and stuff like that. But anyways, they're out there for 19 months, and I'd say definitely within the first, I'd say it was, what's soccer, like a spring sport, something like that. They crash or whatever. They're not out there for any more than a year before they start cannibalizing people. Because as soon as it starts snowing, they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do for food? And it's like, bro, you can ice fish. You can still hunt even though it's winter. Like, you could find something to eat out there for sure. It's not just going to be straight, whatever. But the whole thing of why I wanted to bring this up is, what do you guys think? Do you think that 19 months was long enough for them to start cannibalizing each other? And like I said, even before that, like at the 19-month point, they had a whole cult. They had outfits. They had like cult attire with like animal skins and shit. And it's like they found the animal skins, so they definitely found animals and skinned them. Why could they have not just eaten the animals? What do you guys think? I'd say 6 months out in the woods by yourself. Is that long enough to start forming a cult and eating your friends? Let us know down below. And that's the Long Road Podcast. Thanks.